Am I up on your phone yet, Wendy?
You are. I'm just going to check now for you.
See you are here. Okay. Pre-drinking Friday with Big Phil. Welcome to Big Phil Live. We're here. I'm up and running, and tonight I'm in the Union Jack Club. I've got visitors tonight. I've got an interview tonight for you, and it's all exclusive. So don't say I never bring you nothing, because I'm going to bring you something special tonight. Something that is unseen, unheard, and is going to make a big wave in a massive pond, all right? Okay, so I'm going to bring you something in a minute. But first of all, I'm going to like and share. Let's build the audience up. Let's get ourselves going. Let's pre-drink with Phil tonight in the UJC, okay? Like and share. So I'm going to get this shared now. This is a bit that takes a while to do this. Always does. You're not going to be disappointed tonight, though, I can promise you. Absolutely not. So like and share, get it round to us. I'm going to tell you right now, it's political, so get it out there, come on, because I know you like a bit of politics. I know you like Big Phil to be talking and shouting the odds, all right? It's going to be political tonight, and I want you to share it, because you're going to see stuff you've not seen before. Okay, so get it out there. Come on, I've got 88 viewers at the moment, that's not enough. I'm not speaking to you until we get over 200, all right? That's a deal. It's a Friday night. I know you're probably out and having fun.
That's the trouble on a Friday night, isn't it?
It can be the trouble on a Friday night. In fact, what tends to happen on the week is people watch it over the weekend as well, so the numbers fly up over the weekend. But there you go, I'm talking to someone you can't see yet. I'm not going to let you see him yet. Okay, right, so as you're well aware, the UK is in a bit of a political crisis. It is, quite frankly, as I put it, a number of times, a mess. And it needs sorting out. And you know I've had my opinion, you know I've spoke to Sky News many, many times about terrorism, about border control, and about all my concerns, and about all the things I see going wrong. We all know that we're in turmoil with Brexit, and that people are dragging their heels. We all know that some people are trying to sabotage stuff, and God forbid that Corbyn never gets in power, and I'll tell you what, it's only a couple of votes away from him doing so. So we need to do something, and we need to act now, okay? Now, I'm not going to claim that this is the solution, but this is a very good option, okay? There's a new party, and it's been formed by veterans, and it's called the Democrats and Veterans Party. And there's their logo, and together we serve. We'll find out a bit more about the logo later. They've got a manifesto. They've been accepted in Parliament, so they are an official party now. And come the next elections, if there's a snap elections even, you will be able to vote for this party. And they are hoping to make a massive change. They've got some big names behind them. And one of the founding members tonight, okay, a guy called John Rees-Evans, he's with me tonight on the show. Okay, so I'd like to welcome come on, come and sit down. So, it's been identified that we need a party. What is it you're hoping? Is there a gap in the market that you see that you're going to be able to jump in and fill?
Absolutely. In fact, a lot of your viewers will probably have seen new political parties growing up all the time.
Yep.
And they'll be wondering, well, what on earth is the point of having a minor political party in a two-party state? Because essentially what happens is that come general election time, even if you like the third party, you don't bother voting for it because you know that your vote for that party is going to prevent the worst of two evils getting in.
Yeah.
So in a two-party state, again and again, the third party doesn't really come anywhere because of this first-past-the-post system. So now what we are doing in British politics is introducing a new concept called direct democracy.
Okay, which is your speciality. This is
frankly,
this
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
It is, because I've looked at the political situation for years in Britain and I've lamented and I thought, what on earth can we do to change this? We're kind of locked into a kind of a quagmire here. We can't get anywhere because the country will keep voting Conservative Labour, and both of these parties essentially serve the same people, and these are vested interests. Because what happens in politics in Britain is that people may initially get into politics for good reasons.
Yeah.
There may be good people who genuinely want to help people, but the problem is, once they get elected and they get involved with a political party, they can no longer vote according to even their own conscience. They have to do whatever the party tells them, and the party will tell them what to do on the basis of how their donors want that party to vote.
So you've got your hands tied, basically, in layman's terms.
Absolutely.
Once they get in, they've got their hands tied. They can't no longer wriggle about and say what it was
Yeah.
they set out to say, for want of a better word.
That's right. And we've got the system because when Parliament was established, we didn't have technology that made it possible for parliamentarians to work out what the people wanted. So the only way they could really make decisions on behalf of people was to hold public meetings in their constituencies, invite people there to share their ideas, debate it, and then ride on a horse for maybe 3 or 4 days to Westminster, and then argue on behalf of their own constituents, and then take a vote on the basis of how people wanted them to represent them.
Yeah.
And so Parliament now has this excuse not to consult the will of the people, because they argue that they've been duly elected democratically by their constituents to make decisions
Okay,
on
so
their
basically, again in layman's terms, and I'm sorry I keep breaking it down because it's the way I do my politics. It doesn't matter what you say or do, they'll do what they're told eventually at the top.
Exactly.
And so, no matter what you vote for as a person,
That's right.
it's never really going to make a massive difference, because ultimately the people that are sat on the chairs opposite each other in the big building down the road from here are just going to scream and shout at each other, and nothing's going to get done because they've got their own agendas.
That's right. And so we would argue that representative democracy is not actually representative.
Okay.
And we would cite as evidence of that fact, going back to the 23rd of June, just before 2016, just before we had that referendum on our membership of the European Union, members of Parliament were asked for their opinion, and 3/4 of Parliament voted to keep Britain under foreign control by retaining our membership of the European Union. At the same time that a majority of the voting public actually voted for independence and to regain our sovereignty. And that was actually an act of direct democracy, where the ordinary British people had the right to tell Parliament how they wanted them to vote. But look what's happened since then. Parliament had the option directly.
And it's done its own thing.
Exactly.
They're dragging their feet, they're stalling, they're trying to bring it to re-election ultimately, if you listen to some people out there. Yeah, which is pretty shocking, isn't it? Because the public spoke, so the public expect, because it's in the people that are in that building, they put their trust by voting for them in the first place. And that, folks, is pretty shocking, to be honest.
That's right. And this is the problem you have in modern British politics. They're elitists. These parliamentarians genuinely think that this country needs supposedly more intelligent people than the ordinary British public to make decisions on our own behalf, because we're too stupid to know what's best for us. So you've got 650 people making decisions on behalf of 64 million people. On what grounds? Based on a 19th century argument, arguably an 18th century argument, that it was the only way of doing things. But in the 21st century, it is no longer necessary.
Well, you just look at anything basic, from any business, the way it runs. With technology now, everything goes a lot quicker, everything's more to hand, everything's more available. I can find out just about anything I need to know by going online. And so really, what you're saying is that the people in that building need to catch up. We're draconian. We're not doing things properly. It's almost at the stage where, come on, fellas, do you know what I mean? Everybody else has gone past the bar. Now we need to step up to the plate as well and catch up.
Yeah.
So what can you do about that? What are you aiming to do? What's your manifesto? I haven't had time to read it all. What are you hoping to do to improve things, to improve Joe Public's lot?
Okay, so at the same time, we will continue to campaign using conventional political methods. We will contest every single seat where we can get candidates in the local elections on the 3rd of May. And if any by-elections come up, we'll try to field candidates there. If we have a snap general election, we'll try and get as many candidates as we can afford to pay deposits for. Yeah. But at the same time as doing that, what we're really trying to do is to promote this concept of direct democracy. And I came up with an idea for that, which I think is incredibly effective. And that is to have a non-partisan system whereby...
You'll have to break this one down for me. I'm sorry.
So basically, it doesn't matter what political party you're a member of, or even if you're not interested in politics, if you're not a member of a political party. What I want to do is for this party to set up something that I call a parallel parliament, which basically means that all of the bills that are going through Parliament are put to the British people, okay? And they will be able to vote directly on those bills. Okay. So, and in every constituency, if we succeed with this, if patriotic people like you are willing to help us publicise this, and remember, it's not a party political thing, it's the people versus their corrupt, unrepresentative elites in Parliament who have usurped the authority of the British people, who have stolen their sovereignty. It is the people versus them. So if people like you are willing to help us promote this, what will happen is that the British public will engage with this. They'll present their arguments in favour or against these bills that are passing through Parliament, and we will count the votes of people in each constituency, and we'll present the results of those votes to the MP in that constituency. So if, for example, there's a bill on, I don't know, there's a bill passing through Parliament at the moment on abortion in connection to disabled people, and let's say, if for argument's sake, in a particular constituency, 70% of the constituents want that bill to go through, and yet the MP votes against that bill, we will have clear evidence of a democratic disconnect, a breakdown in democracy. Yeah.
I can see that. I can see the way that works in one respect, but do you not sort of like think that will lead to sort of like some people voting yes in some areas and some voting no?
Yes.
So bearing in mind that you can't sort of like keep everybody happy all of the time.
Yeah.
How then do you work out the overall figure?
I mean, that's the way democracy works. You won't make everybody happy all of the time.
Yeah.
It's done obviously on the basis of majority. So we've broken our country down into 650 constituencies.
Okay, and that would be still the way it worked. So
yes,
it wouldn't be a person count, a head count. It would be a constituency count.
Yes, I mean,
okay. I'm sorry to take it so grassroots.
No. I mean, it's a perfectly legitimate question because one could do it head by head.
Yeah.
But of course, the issue is that you can't really justify breaking down aspects of the system which aren't broken. We're not here to create a revolution. What we're actually trying to do is to have a counter-revolution.
Yeah.
What we are arguing is that there's a perfectly good constitution in this country that has secured our rights and liberties and our independence for hundreds of years. And it is our parliamentarians that are betraying this country, our parliamentarians that are prostituting away our sovereignty to foreign powers. Do you know, there's a bit in our constitution, it's actually the Sovereign's Declaration in the 1689 Bill of Rights, and it says, no foreign prince, person, prelate, state or potentate hath or ought to have any jurisdiction, power, superiority, preeminence or authority within this realm. And that's in our constitution. So it is completely illegal in terms of our constitution that Britain should ever have come under the jurisdiction of foreign courts, for example.
Which is the European Union, obviously.
Precisely. But when we entered the European Union, the people were not consulted over that. They were consulted.
So again, this breakdown that you're on about, this disconnect between what the people want and what actually happens, that's another perfect demonstration of that, isn't it?
Exactly, and it's just the politics of deceit and manipulation. We were conned into a trade deal. If our politicians were honest and they said, look, we'd like to take away your independence and give your sovereignty away, we'd like to put Britain under the jurisdiction of foreign courts, do you agree? I can guarantee at least 80% of the British public back in 1975 would have said no, definitely not. And in fact, why are you even asking that question? It's time for you to get lost. We need some real patriots in Parliament who actually care about this country. Yeah. But they don't do that. They lie to you, and they say to you, they treat us like children, like gullible children. They offer us something which looks attractive. We go for that.
Look at the nice sweetie.
Basically, like the very worst people in society luring a child into danger.
No,
that is how they operate.
So, just by the nature of the name, the Democrats and veterans, people are going to say to me, look, is this just a veterans thing? Can we encompass everybody within the veterans?
Well, if we were just called the veterans, then I would think there'd be kind of logical basis for that. But obviously we're called Democrats and veterans. Because this party is for two types of people. It's for those who genuinely believe in democracy. And I'm not talking about that fake democracy, that so-called representative democracy, where you lie your way into a position of power, then do whatever your party tells you. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about genuine democracy, where you consult the people and you act on their will. That's the kind of democracy that this party is all about. So this party is for genuine Democrats. And this party is for those people who believe in their country, genuine patriots who are willing to serve their country. And that spirit of service is embodied in our veterans. There is no more compelling argument in favour of anyone's democratic credentials in this country than our veterans, who have been willing to put themselves in harm's way to preserve our freedoms, those freedoms that are based on our democratic constitution. So the veterans are an incredibly special demographic of people in this country because of their proven willingness to serve.
They are, but we're not particularly, in the scheme of things, strong. I mean, we're 2.5 million people in effect, aren't we? Which isn't a lot of people to make a large dent in stuff. So we're gonna, the Democratic and Veterans Party is going to rely on other people's faith within them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then I also, my argument to them is, well, you're happy enough for them to represent you on the battlefield,
yes.
so you should be happy enough for them to represent. Because if nothing else, a veteran's, he's taken the Queen's shilling. He's signed allegiance to this. The day he signs up, whether he's commissioned or he's non-commissioned, he's signed allegiance and pledged his allegiance to this country, and that should speak volumes above anything else for myself.
That's right.
Do you know? And I just feel like we've let things slip to a point that we are at an all-time low. And when you look at leaders like so-called, like the loosest of speech ever in the terms of leaders is Jeremy Corbyn, as far as I'm concerned, who has had his allegiances with organisations which are. If you vetted Jeremy Corbyn and tried to feed him into the system and join him up in the army, he'd be turned down as a security threat. Which is like, it's shocking that man might be in charge of number 10.
Absolutely.
So, is there any policies that you would like to sort of that are completely different from anybody? Is there anything else that you're going to do that's completely different to anybody else?
Well, when people have the opportunity to read our manifesto, what they'll see are policies that we believe that the British public want.
Yeah.
But again, since we're based on direct democracy, those policies in that manifesto are essentially our offering to the British public.
Yeah.
Those have to be ratified by our members. So I mean, if you don't mind, if I just have a look at this.
Your manifesto.
So one of the main policies that we have that we will be pushing for is how decisions are actually made in Parliament.
Okay, which is paramount to everything you've just said, really, isn't it? That's where the massive breakdown is. Yeah. How the decisions are made.
So we don't believe that a small handful of supposed elites working behind closed doors are qualified to make decisions on behalf of the entire British public. We believe that the people have the right to tell government how they want to be governed. So the most fundamental change that we are advocating is how votes are taken in Parliament. So what we are actually pushing for is a system in which when bills pass through Parliament, Parliament is under obligation to extend the vote to members of the entire country, those who have an interest. If you don't have an interest in voting, or if you don't understand the bill, you leave it alone. But something that you do care about, you vote on. And what we're pushing for is where more than 10% of the country vote on a bill, the outcome of that vote determines whether or not Parliament enacts that bill or not.
Okay, so basically you're having a look at it before a final decision's made, and you can push it through properly. Am I getting it?
Sort of. So let's imagine that Parliament proposes to, I don't know, let's say Parliament proposes to do a particular thing. They propose a certain bill, and all the members of Parliament think it's a fantastic idea, but the entire country think it's a bad idea.
Okay.
Even if there were 100% agreement in Parliament for this bill, Parliament would not have authority to pass this bill.
Well, I get that, but how do you gauge what the public are thinking?
You ask them through a direct democracy system.
And you're doing this, are you doing this online?
Yeah, a combination.
I'll go back to the very top of the conversation. There's no horse coming in the town anymore, is there? Do you know what I mean? So, and this process of the online stuff.
Yes.
Is that something that I'm going to be proper play devil's advocate? Is that not something that could be manipulated?
The outcome.
That's the older person in me coming out there. You know what I mean?
Which is easier to manipulate? A system where you've just got to corrupt a handful of whips. Or get a handful of donors to tell a couple of political parties how you want to vote, or a system where you've actually got to doctor millions of votes.
Right,
Right now, the current system is far more open to abuse than the system that we're advocating.
Okay.
But it's not just going to be online, because we don't just want people who are on the internet to be able to vote in this way. We would judge that a growing percentage of those who participate would be participating online, because more and more people are learning how to use apps.
Of course,
and that kind of thing. But I mean, just for example, even people who are not on the internet are used to going into a post office,
internet cafe,
or doing their lottery. Where you fill in your little numbers and
quite true, I suppose.
feed it into a machine,
It goes.
and that feeds it into a very secure database. So you could have people on their Zimmer frames in their 90s who have never been on the internet in their lives and have absolutely no interest, but who read in the back of the newspaper that there's a vote going through Parliament to cut pensions or something like that.
And they disagree with it, they want to have their say.
That's right. They then just go into wherever the National Lottery is done. We would suggest that whoever has the contract for the National Lottery, as a condition of that contract, they run this. In fact, arguably you could even charge them, because when somebody goes in to vote, the chances are they'll think they can get lucky at the same time. So we can actually run this at a profit in theory, so there's no cost technically. But even if the country paid for it, it's well worth paying for that level of democracy. Now, what you would have is anybody voting on anything that they felt was important. There'd be no obligation for people to vote on things that they weren't interested in or they didn't understand. But if a very small number of the British public voted on something, Parliament would retain prerogative to vote the way that
I've got you. So you are proper listening to the people.
Absolutely.
And that's where it's coming from.
And so instead of Parliament having to pander to vested interests and just argue with each other, it becomes their responsibility to convince the British public how they should vote.
Which means they're going to have to pull their fingers out, which is what we want them to do anyway.
So Sean Smart, he would like to know how long before you can start to make changes in Parliament? 5, 10, 15 years?
Well, let's have a look at the Five Star Movement in Italy. They started in 2009, and they're already getting significant representation. I think by about 2013, the elections were around about
Okay, so 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And you can begin to start seeing fruits to what you've done.
That's right.
But I do, and on that point, I genuinely believe you've got to start doing something now, because we are going so far down that slippery slope that if you don't act now, we seriously are in trouble. Any more questions?
Yeah, there's quite a few. Ian Cartwright said, what are your policies on immigration? Can I ask you, please?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in very general terms, and again, what I would reiterate is that we don't, as such, have fixed policies. The only thing that is fixed is our constitution, because that defines our aims as a party, our values, our founding principles, and that is very difficult to change, and the constitution should be difficult to change. So we will entertain any policy that is not discordant with our constitution. If our constitution contradicts a policy that somebody wants to propose, we'll have to say, look, I'm awfully sorry, but you're going to have to modify that because that goes against our constitution. But provided it's in line with our constitution, we are willing to accept any policy that our members vote in favour of, because we've got an online direct democracy system where you can propose policies, and if you get enough assenters, like 100 assenters within the first 28 days, it goes through to a phase where you can submit arguments and modify the wording, and at the end of that 3-month phase, 28 days of voting, and if a majority of our members vote in favour of that policy, it has to go into our constitution. So that's the little proviso. But in answer to your question, our first offering, as far as immigration is concerned, is basically the principle that immigration must primarily serve the interests of the host country. In my case, I've worked abroad, as obviously you have. When I've gone to other countries, they won't just let me in to do what I like. Firstly, they make sure I don't have a criminal record. And they then ask me to prove that my being there is going to be
beneficial to the people that you come and join.
The host country, because it is the responsibility of that government to make decisions.
I can see that, and I do agree with that. What about people that are claiming refuge here? Do you know what I mean? Who are saying, right, I need to be here because it's too dangerous for me to go back.
And we have a policy for that, and that is that a commission should be established to determine whitelisted countries with respect to the security risk of those people coming into this country or lack thereof, and that the British public should be able to vote on numbers of people that they accept into this country on an annual basis at the taxpayers' expense. It is the taxpayers who are going to be funding the asylum seekers coming into this country. It is they who have the moral right to determine what level of asylum immigration this country accepts.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Is there anything else, Connie?
Chris said you're going to get his vote.
Thank you very much indeed, Chris.
There's a couple of people on there saying the same thing.
I'm going to be following this very carefully. So over the next couple of months, I think you need to mention the fact that you actually launch officially.
We do, yes. Thanks.
So please
So,
plug away, because
well,
I want you to plug everything in.
Thanks very much indeed. And you said you're going to be following this very carefully. I mean, if we go wrong, we want you to tell us, and we want those who are watching this live stream, if
they will tell you.
If they see us doing something wrong, that's how direct democracy works.
Yeah.
I mean, if you remember, you can go on there and you can propose that we change the way we do things, and you can carry the membership with you, because we're not a little elite, a bunch of people sitting behind closed doors deciding we know what's best on behalf of the whole party. It is the job of our leadership to determine what is the will of the members and to find the most effective way of executing that will. That is our job. So if this party goes wrong, it's as much your fault as it is our fault.
Yeah. So you want to know?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, from private bacon neck up to general, whoever. Do you know what I mean? You want it across the board. People need to feed that information in to the system.
Yeah. Because we're just a handful of people in leadership with limited life and work experience. The members, God willing, will go into the 20, 50, 100,000, and we've got all of that knowledge and wisdom and experience throughout the entire country, and we want all of that talent, all those skills, all that knowledge to inform our policy. There might be somebody out in the Outer Hebrides who knows something about nuclear power that we simply don't know. We can't formulate intelligent energy policy. We want them to write a proposal and to present the arguments, and then we'll promote it and say, look, vote, do you want us to do this? And if the answer is yes, we will fight for that at national level against the government.
So going back to the launch,
of
the party, the time to get his launch up.
So the launch is actually next Friday here in the Union Jack Club, downstairs in the Gascoigne room, and we open doors at 6 p.m, 1800, and we actually start proceedings at 18:30, where there'll be a live stream. Now, I think we're limited to something like 140 capacity. They might let a few more people come in and stand. And obviously, if you can't attend, please watch on the live stream. And
I'm hoping to say a few words myself down there on the day.
Thank you very much indeed. Fantastic. And again, this kind of party, if you're unsure, rather join, influence the party to move in whichever direction you believe is best for this country. And if you can't carry people with you, evidently it's not a party that's going to satisfy you. But the reality is there's no other political party in Britain that has any interest in enlisting the will of its own members.
Which is a pretty unique and something when we there's plenty of people sat at home moaning about what's available. There's plenty of people sat at home not doing anything. This is your opportunity to make a massive difference. This is your opportunity to get behind something that's new, to get behind something that could possibly make a massive difference for everybody and for our children as well. Go on, Wendy. Sorry.
Peter O'Neill, he said, could you open a Facebook page and a Twitter account?
Yes, we have one actually.
You have one?
Yes, so in fact, our website is going to launch on the same day of our launch, which is the Friday the 9th of February. And the website address for that is dvparty.uk. So dvparty.uk.
And I'll be plugging all these links, so it will all be all over my social media.
We've got a lot of people in here wanting to know, did you serve in the armed forces?
Only very briefly. I can't really say I served. They were extremely patient with me in allowing me to start recruits, and I went up through phase 2 with the parachute regiment, but I didn't go to battalion. Frankly, I went in as a private soldier, the first person in my family ever to go in as a private. Most of my relatives were officers.
Ruperts.
That's what they're all saying.
Very to say.
But that's what they're saying about you.
I wasn't a Rupert. But do you know, I had... I remember the guy, Sergeant Bain, came to me in phase 2 and he said, John, you know, with all due respect. I was quite fit, you know, I passed all the CFTs and stuff. But they said to me, we don't think you'll particularly be well suited to serving in battalion. And so they suggested applying for a commission. I didn't really want a commission. I thought kind of long and hard about it, looked at the whole situation and kind of became a bit disillusioned with the fact that our orders seemed to be originating from Romano Prodi at the time. Do you remember when we were compelled to go into Bosnia and to kill Serbians on behalf of Croatians? And personally, I felt that if anything, we were on the wrong side of that.
So it was a bit of a conscientious
Right.
objection.
I was willing to fight had I been suited to the role. I was willing to fight for you know, the preservation of democracy in this country, for our national interest. I was not willing to fight to preserve the new European empire, this attemptedly growing European empire. And I felt that our armed forces had been co-opted by political interests. I mean, even now, I fear that a similar thing is going on. Because what I see happening around the country is quietly, government is going around dismantling military bases. And I think the agenda is to try to undermine our integrity as an independent armed forces.
To rely on the Europeans to become part of Europe.
Exactly.
Is it, mate? It's not rocket science, is it? You know what I mean?
No.
I've got a cycle proficiency when I left school, and I took that twice, and I can fucking see it. Sorry.
Still can't ride a bike.
And I can see it. Do you know what I mean? That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, we need to expose this, Philip, because this is the reality. This is what they're doing. They're undermining our country. This is an act of extreme treachery.
It's treason, right?
Yes.
It's treason.
Yes.
No other word for it.
Because they know the only way they can get us to vote what they would regard as the right way a second time in a referendum is if they can provide more compelling evidence to us of how dangerous it's going to be on our own in that sense. And if they can prove to us that we need to be a part of the European army for the sake of our national security, then the British public may vote out of fear. But again, they underestimate the British public because we are not motivated by fear.
And we all know that Uncle Sam's got our back. So I have a lot of American viewers on here, and we all know that Uncle Sam always has our six, no matter what.
Yes, yeah.
And that's just something they don't seem to bring that up too much, do they? No. And all this upsetting Trump and all that sort of stuff, it all fits in with the same sort of like parting line, doesn't it?
That's right.
That they want to remain in Europe,
exactly.
And that these remoaners are dragging their feet and playing any card they can, however sly and however minging it is. They'll play that card on behalf of them getting what they want.
Absolutely.
Which is despicable, because it's not what we want.
Chris said that I should buy you a bike because it will sort your parking problems. Yes, everybody, Phil got 3 parking tickets in 2 days. And it's not, and we pay, that's something you could sort out. £300 a year we pay for our parking space, and we had to park it in a bay, which we thought was part of the thing. It was pay and go, and they stuck 2 tickets on there.
Who's my local councillor, Diane Abbott? She probably couldn't even add up how much I owe to the parking people.
Do you know, I mean, we all know about her accuracy issues.
Yeah.
And yet if we go 1 mile over the speed limit, I read in the newspaper today, we're now at risk of getting fined because the technology is so much better that there's less margin of error. And I really fear that this country is becoming so totalitarian and fascist that even a little bit of human error and you get badly punished. So yes, these are things that are very close to our heart. We don't really like this increase in laws. Your laws are just expanding, and you're stressed just to walk down the road for fear of
There's a big brother thing, isn't there? I mean, the amount of cameras that are out there and all that sort of stuff.
I think
I can see the pros in them in some respects, but then I can also see the invasion of my own space on the other respects.
It's a careful balance.
I mean, a lot of people on here are sort of, they're umming and ahhing, which is understandable. But I seriously think if the Veterans Party go in and they do what they say they're going to do, and they start showing the public that, I can't see no reason why.
Look, at the moment,
What they're scared of.
As I said on the pledge last night, you've got 2 broken toys at the moment, and we're only playing with the one that works slightly better than the other one. We've got an opportunity to play with a brand new toy. It's going to be put out of the box. Let's at least give it a move around. Do you know what I mean? And have a play with it and see what happens. And if you don't like it, you go back to whatever you knew. But I think you've got to give. There has to be something else given a chance for me at the moment.
Yeah, and these guys who are umming and erring about it, why don't they take control of it? If our party fails, it's because people are complacent, they don't bother to get involved and actually exert their own influence in it.
So everybody can be given ownership of this sort of project, can't they?
The thing about this is that the leadership are really just a coordinating administration. We're not really decision makers. You know, the members are the decision makers. We will advocate a certain position that we believe in, but ultimately it's down to the members to determine whether or not that should become policy. And we have an obligation, a constitutional obligation, to fight for whatever our members tell us they want us to fight for.
Any more questions coming in, Wendy?
Lots about your bike, Phil.
Lots about me, bike.
That's it, really. There's a lot of people just repeating the same as what they've
Okay,
said.
so I think we've been on for half an hour. I could sit and talk all night, to be honest.
But it's Friday night.
It's Friday night. I know people want to go out. There'll be people there sat in the pub watching it now thinking, when he shuts up, I'm going to a club. Okay?
But Phil, thank you so much for having me on.
No, it's my pleasure. Like I say, I am going to monitor very, very closely what happens, and I want to report back to people. Like I say, I'll come and say a few words and all that sort of stuff, and I'll show you support where I can. You know, I don't nail my colours to anybody in particular easily, but I do think you've got something there, and I'd like to see you progress. And like I say, I'll follow it as close as I can.
Well, thank you. And I mean, even if you don't necessarily agree with everything we're doing, your influence could actually get our party to push for things that you believe in, things that are close to your heart.
And that's what people have got to realise with this, I think, is that if you are passionate enough about something, you can't just keep talking, you can't just keep sitting on your sofa.
Yeah.
You've got to stand up, and this is giving you an opportunity. That, like you say, you're the only party that gives you that opportunity to voice your opinions, and you'll be listened to.
Yeah.
All the rest of your decisions are made for you. So you might as well have a butchers and have a go. I'm going to certainly be following the progress and see how it goes. And thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we'll see you. Hopefully, we'll see you on the 9th for the launch. Right. That'll do. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much.